Namaste and welcome to all. Today's our very special guest is a man with a very strong, very deep background in education and in theatre. As a man, he is been centered, known for his understanding and clarity and how to communicate his clarity into the others and make them go with it. A very special man, and I'm deeply honored to introduce to you, all of you, a wonderful human being and a man with a big heart. Welcome to our show, Mr. Ramesh. And it's such a wonderful pleasure that you are here, and I'm really honored to have you here on our show. To start with, I would like to ask you, when you were in the field of education, what was that main thing that really made you feel like this is the reason I am here for, this is what I would like to do?
Well, that's a very interesting question. In fact, I was interested in teaching. Maybe one of the reasons could be I belong to a family where many of my relatives, including my father, my sisters, they were all into field of education. That could be one of the reasons. And I also belong to a family which was deeply associated with Gandhian thoughts. My father, my Periyappa, they were all interested in followers of Gandhism, and truly they wanted to use their understanding of the society. They want to percolate it down to the lost man in the society. And they were part of many movements. In fact, my Periyappa, that is my Dodappa, was a great follower of Gandhi. In fact, he wanted to go to Sabarmati Ashram to work along with him. But then Gandhi said, no need for you to come there because there are so many people around. You can as well do your work here in Karnataka. And that was the time when Gandhi was deeply interested in this Khadi movement. So he said, why don't you take up this job of Khadi movement in Karnataka? So he started this Badanwal Khadi Kram Udyaga. He was the first manager of that organization, and he, along with Sadashivam, husband of M.S. Subbalakshmi, and others, they were all part of that movement. Tagdu Ramchandra, one other famous name in Mysore district. So that could be one of the reasons, because in my childhood I was exposed to all these activities. People used to come home, and ours was a liberal and secular family in the truest sense of the term. So we never discriminated people on the basis of caste, class or anything, and people used to come, have food, etc. So maybe these are all some of the rudimentary activities that was taking place in my family, which might have helped me to take up teaching as my profession. And also, another thing was, I was deeply interested in studying literature. So in my undergraduate program, I had taken English as one of my major subjects. And then, of course, I continued to do my post-graduation in English literature, which helped me to, create my own sensibility or my own way of understanding things with the help of all the literature that I was exposed to. So with that background, I started to function as a teacher. Another interesting thing is teaching is basically, it's not all about content, it is more about expression. So that helped me to understand my own way of communicating with people, how best I can communicate, how to ensure that the frequency of communication is on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
So that helped me to become a teacher. And of course, I was. And there were a lot of professional hazards too, because when I say college education, and you know that what kind of education we are imparting in our college. Though at times we are very keen on giving something good to the students, but most of the time it so happens that we get a lot of students who are disinterested in studies, and there are certain texts which are not, which do not, create any sort of enthusiasm among students to learn.
Yeah.
And more so, for many of these students, learning English itself is a big curse for them because they find it very difficult, maybe for many reasons, and one of the reasons is they are not properly trained to study English as language when they come to college level. So we had to start from the scrap once again.
From the basic,
language. It was more of language teaching than teaching some of these literary texts.
Yeah.
So I was doing it, and I developed a sort of passion towards it. And I knew very well, if I have to survive as a teacher, I must create an atmosphere, a conducive atmosphere of learning inside the classroom. If I don't do that, perhaps no point in calling myself a teacher. So in fact, I had other opportunities. I was selected to Indian Army. I refused to take it up, and then I taken up some examination for this bank officers, etc., which of course I thought I was trying to grab any opportunity that comes in my way. But finally decided it's always better to be a teacher, though of course it was not that fascinating and that remunerative in those days. Yes,
true. Yeah.
And a couple of my teachers, like Dr. Yaran Murthy, Professor C.D. Narasimhan, and B. Damodar Rao, they are all very well-learned people with a lot of sensibility.
Yeah.
So my interaction with them, my understanding of their reading, all these things helped me a lot. Another thing is this kind of education helped me to read a lot, which of course I was deeply interested in. So right from my childhood, I used to read a lot of books in Kannada as well as in English literature. Part of my textbooks, even other books also, I developed a sort of interest in that. So all these put together, I think, helped me. But I'm sure, of course, just a couple of days before we celebrated our Teachers' Day, many people greeted me on the day. But the job of a teacher is always very sensitive, I would say, because no one would appreciate him as long as he was a teacher, as long as he was engaging classes in a classroom. The students start appreciating you only after when they leave college, and after a couple of years when they come across, meet you on the street or any place, they say, "Sir, I remember you." Many times I may not be remembering those faces.
Yes.
So that's one of the greatest boon that a teacher has. Some student remembering your teaching of preposition in a classroom way back some 25 years before. And then he remembers today, "Sir, it was you who taught me this," etc. That's, I think, very praiseworthy appreciation.
Yeah, true.
So all these things, it made me to take up this job seriously. And of course, another great thing that I feel as a teacher is once you walk into the classroom, you're all by yourself. You have that autonomous power vested in you. No government and no management can force you. No, this is what you can do, not beyond. They cannot structure your program. They can structure my text.
Yeah.
They can structure my hours of teaching, but they cannot structure my thought flow. So that freedom I always enjoy, which I think is very difficult to come across in other jobs.
Yeah.
That we are programmed to work the way they want us to work.
Yes.
But here we have that freedom.
Freedom.
And I'm sure many of these teachers, if they are all good teachers, they are remembered because that they said something along with the textual propositions.
Yes.
And people remember those teachers who have shown them the ways of life, who have shown them how one should conduct oneself in a society. All kinds of things. It could be empathy, sympathy, love, different stages of human understandings.
Yeah.
So these things, I think, many of our teachers have taught us, and perhaps we in the process must have done that. So that one freedom I still cherish and enjoy as a teacher.
That's why I think it's, they say, teaching is a very noble profession. Because,
exactly.
Yeah, it's such a wonderful position to be in.
Exactly.
To be in that place, to impart something. Many of the students carry it for their life. Because I remember many of my teachers, not all of them. Some of them I don't want to remember. Some of them I remember so deeply with such a reverence that I'm so lucky that I had them as my teacher. It's such a wonderful thing to carry in the journey of our lives. So really, it's such a wonderful place to be.
Exactly. But as I said, one must develop passion towards teaching.
Yes.
Which of course it comes in our Guru Parampara, in our traditional way of teaching. I would say we missed a lot because of this Lord Macaulay and his modern education.
Yeah.
Though many people say that we have advanced because of that, I wouldn't subscribe to that thought. There were something remarkable way of interaction in our system of education.
Yes.
Earlier to this modern education.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, for various reasons, either because of some social pressures or discomfort, something like that, we missed it.
Yeah.
And we fell into this trap of English education and all that which followed after 19th century. Now, of course, people are realizing and trying to go back. So, because ultimately, teaching is not a job, where it flows from known to the unknown. It is not that. It's a sort of an interaction. It has to be a sort of an interaction where two minds, as I was mentioning earlier, it's like in Upanishads it say, let's sit
being in the present
side by side and then discuss what life is all about. So that kind of interaction helps students to understand things better and help teachers to understand life better through their students.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think now, in fact, we are planning to go back to that kind of systems. Like, we believe in, you need to have tutorials where you need a small number of students, interact with
personal
teachers,
interaction
etc.
is very important. Yeah.
But it doesn't happen in a large section like this. When you believe in mass education, you cannot afford to do all those things. So you need to find different platforms where such kind of counselings happen.
Yeah.
So of course, it's happening today.
It's happening because many small groups are choosing that way of education to work with children or things like that. There are many small groups or communities starting that way. It will be wonderful if they happen. But when it comes to teaching, like when I see remember my own childhood or when I was my days in school or college, many of us were like difficult students in the sense whatever the teacher is trying to teach was going over the head. It was not going into the head. How do you help these kind of students?
It happens because one of the advantages of teaching in college education is we meet a heterogeneous crowd.
Yes.
And the group is not either belonging to one chunk of students who are equally trained, meritorious in their quality, or equally average students. So in a class where you have 15, 20 students who are quite meritorious,
yes,
and there are about 20, 30 students who are average. And there are about 30 students who know nothing about the classroom exercise at all.
Yeah.
They are ignorant of everything.
Yes.
So in a class like this, then it is difficult. Mm-hmm. You have to adopt a kind of teaching method, which would try to pacify some of these sections. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And quite naturally, what happens, some of these, supposing I'm taking the students through an exercise, let's say some exercise in grammar. Mm-hmm. For some students, it might appear very simple. Why he is taking so much of time in explaining what a noun is all about.
And again explaining, yeah.
And for another student who doesn't even know what part of speech all about in English language structure, for him to, you have to, create an atmosphere where he tries to understand these constructions. So that's one problem we come across. And of course, we have to find our own method. So normally what do I do? Because since you asked me this question, I don't think I can provide you any generic remark. I always take up the exercise in such a way that the first couple of hours, I call it a bridge course, where I try to bring them, expose them to the minimum expectations that we try to expect from the undergraduate student. Yeah. And afterwards, we go into the text.
Okay.
So later on, when we were doing this exercise, and we gave this activity report to our Board of Studies, finally, they took this matter in Mysore University. They made a policy that all first-year students should have bridge course for first 8 hours or less. So in almost all colleges, they try to follow it. So like that, a teacher can always find his own way of inculcating what he really intends to. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It could be in a classroom, or it could be outside the classroom, or it could be in a small group. Yeah. So that possibilities are there. I'm not denying the possibility that it cannot happen. There's always space for you to improve. There's always space for you to conduct yourself a sort of approachable.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The basic thing that a student finds a difficulty is most of these students, especially students who come from rural background, they find it difficult because they don't have that approachable quality.
Yeah.
They're so hesitant that they won't even talk to the teachers. They think that they're so shy enough.
Yeah.
They think that it's not done. And most of the teachers do behave in that pattern too. They think that they live in an isolated world, an island by itself. Mm-hmm. So their job is to they begin a class with a lot of frustration, saying that, look, this is a lot of disinterested students who are not here to understand anything. They've come here for some other purpose.
Yeah.
Which may not be true. There could be one or two or a few disgruntled elements, but not all the class.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, and especially I've had the experience for almost 35, 37 years, many students who come from rural areas, they're quite brilliant.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But don't try to understand their intelligence with the kind of questions that you ask, like the kind of questions that you ask in an urban society, like what you call as the IQ level.
Yeah, yeah.
I would always say, it's just for the fun of it. For example, a rural student, if he comes to my college, I just ask him, on the way, did you see trees? Yes. So could you identify? That student will certainly identify more than 30, 40 species of.
Yes.
And then he could identify some 20, 30 different kinds of birds. But if I ask the same question to an urban student, he just can't make out
definitely
any difference between any of those. So then what is knowledge here?
Yes.
So that native wisdom is also knowledge.
Absolutely, yeah.
So this is not the urban thinking of knowing who is the president of the country and where is Chile and the different countries in South American
cities of different
That's
countries.
not important.
Exactly.
So I think most of the time we will be wasting our energy in knowing something which is not required for us to do.
Yeah.
And in the process, we fail to recognize and give importance to some of the things which are familiar to us and where we should have given more importance.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
So that problem is always there.
So earlier you said one of the things I enjoyed most is the part of expression as a teacher. This brings me to two questions. One, as a child, when you were growing up, you said like there were lots of activities happening at home, people visiting your house. Did at the home atmosphere, were you allowed to express freely your feelings, your thoughts, your emotions? Were you supported?
Yes. I think I must say I was really fortunate enough to be brought up in an atmosphere like that, because we have had wonderful family get-togethers. Like my father, a very liberal man, and my uncle, he was also equally, and most of my sisters, my daughters of my elder Periyappa and others, they were all teachers, and we used to have a lot of discussions at home. And one of my maternal uncle was a doctor, so he used to come and discuss things with us. It was either before meal or dinner or after dinner.
Yeah.
And not just family relationship, we used to discuss rest of the social activities and then what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
All these things. And there was space for children to say, to give their opinions. We used to share opinions. And I still remember my grandfather was an advocate. In fact, at a very early age, I think maybe I was just in 7th or 8th standard, it was he who gave me first book on Ramayana. Then I was reading A.R. Krishna Shastri's Mahabharata. So we used to read that book, and then he used to discuss Mahabharata with us.
Okay.
And I used to ask him questions like what it is, why it is so. And a very patient provider, he used to give me patient hearing and discuss about it. So this atmosphere, I don't think is common in most of the families. And this is exactly what I say to most of my students. There were students in my class who are first-time learners. Maybe his father is a coolie, his mother is sells some lentils on the street. And with a lot of her savings, she used to come. And I've seen, as a principal when I was in the college, a woman, Sopmarta Idlodu, she used to come. She just unfurled her sari, the edge of the border of the sari, and said, "So this is all I have, all 1 rupee, 2 rupee notes, etc. Please accept this as my son's fee." And that boy happens to be the first-time learner. So I cannot expect him to be on par with any of the other students of my society. So I used to provide him a lot of support, like giving him books, asking our teachers to help him out and then conduct extra classes. At the same time, I was very strict with regard to a student who comes from a highly educated family belonging to the higher strata of life, coming from a Brahmin family. Because if that boy fails, I never ever showed him any kind of, margin. It's your mistake, because you're coming from this family and you need to be always on your toes. Because education is the only thing that your father or mother can provide you. So I don't like you to miss this opportunity. So this is what we have to understand, because in a society like ours, where there are many students who are coming from rural areas and they're coming there to the college for the first time. The whole of their family, perhaps no one was educated.
Yeah.
Beyond 5th or 6th standard, no one had gone to school. So these students somehow, because of the help from the government or because of the environmental change and because of so many colleges that we see around now, they're getting education, and we need to show our magnanimity in providing them an opportunity. So this is always there. So there is a lot of difference between a student, a child who is exposed to a larger world right from the beginning, and a child who is very timid and who is not exposed to the larger society. Then all of a sudden, when we show him the world, he may find it difficult to understand. So one need to.
This I really like. It feels like, wow, this is such a wonderful way of approaching the student and the teaching process. Wish all the principals and all the teachers think in this way, because when you said the student from the upper class or the Brahmin family, there is no remorse, no margin. You have to study, because if you fail, if you waste your time, you have no further journey. Or someone who comes from a very lower background, any support can be given to them because they need it. So this is in a way of balancing the imbalance which is already existing in the society. This is really a remarkable thing. This probably should every teacher, every school, every principal should use that part. This is one of the best things. Really, I am really pleased to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, I strongly believe in that because I always feel, as it leads me to another point, that is, a student, they're saying like something like, all are poets in their heart, only few give expression to it. So similarly, every student is brilliant.
True.
But only the problem is a few can give expression to their thought process.
Yeah.
And majority of them find it difficult to express themselves, either in Kannada or in English.
Yeah.
Because this is a very intricate process also, because in our learning system, we are not showing interest or perhaps concentrating on this aspect of comprehending the material and then reconstructing it in your own understanding, in your own linguistic terms.
Yes.
We always believe in, getting things to your mind, and once in a year, we give you 3 hours, you have to express all there. So what happens, majority of the students lack this communicative skill.
Yes.
And when you lack that communicative skill, which is very essential in a society like the society that we live in today, you survive if you are good at your expression.
Yes.
You might be really brilliant, but if you say like something like, "Sir, I knew this, sir, but I really don't know how to express it. I don't know how to put it forth." So that's a big failure, because every organization, be it corporate organization or any media, anything, they want you to express.
Yep.
You have to give expression to what you have understood.
Yes.
And sometimes you have to give expression to what others are doing and how things are functioning. You need to have that ability to understand life outside your gambit of your personal life.
Yeah.
So for that, we need to have a lot of exercise in communication, which I think even today perhaps, of course, there are so many organizations which conduct spoken English classes. We teach you personal management, etc. But many are hoax organizations and money-minded organizations. Many times these people fail also in getting the opportunities. So in a classroom, if we build that atmosphere, if there is you have that a wonderful climate where one can freely say.
Yeah.
Now, that is exactly where I come into theatre, because
Yes.
in theatre, there's a lot of space for you to express. In all our schooling days, what do? We say, no, don't ask questions. You're not supposed to ask questions. Don't look at me. Don't stare at me like this. You got to bend your head. You're not supposed to stare at elders.
Yeah.
So gaze is something which is looked down upon in our society, and especially for women, we don't even allow them to raise their head and talk to people face to face, because that is considered as one of the most. It's a kind of an evil proposition, and because of that, we build this timid atmosphere. Whereas in theatre, the first thing that we do is, you got to speak a lot. We allow you to speak. This is the only area where you can speak.
Yep.
And we don't mind what you speak. You just go on speaking.
Yeah.
And let's draw the essence out of it later.
Yes.
And that's how I can build an actor.
Mm-hmm.
An actor has to speak and has to look at his co-actor. He has to see him.
Yeah.
He has to have that eye contact. Without that, he can't do any exercise. So that way, theatre comes handy, and it helps me to talk to my students or people who come to theatre. So this is another fascinating world where communication is taking place, and also there's a possibility for this meta communication to take place. So something which is inexplicable can be explained to something which we find it difficult, because there's always a common saying among most of us, especially among girls. They say, oh, she spoke to me for hours together, but still finally I just could not understand what she was saying all this.
Yeah.
So this, and there's a wonderful story also, and I think this is all very familiar, and I use it in my communicative class. That is, throughout the night they listen to Ramayana. In the morning, he asked, who is Rama and who is Sita?
Yeah,
so that means what kind of communication that has taken place throughout the night?
Yes.
That person must have told you the story, but this fellow has not understood anything of it.
Yeah.
So in that story, there's a wonderful lesson on communication for us. So we need to dig out the possibilities of how best one can communicate.
Yes.
And to communicate, what are the tools that we require? So what we were doing in classroom, we try to extend it in theatre, and what we were doing in theatre, we try to put it across in, put it into practice in classroom also. Another wonderful example that I always give, perhaps Subbu and others must be knowing it. A place, let's say for a play like Macbeth, about 80-85 pages. I take not less than 60 hours to teach the text in my classroom as a text for second year BA/BSc student. 60 hours. But after 60 hours also, the students, they find it difficult to understand the dramatis persona. Who is Macbeth? Who is Duncan? Who is Lady Macbeth? Who is, and all witches, what are their functions? Whereas, the same play we rehearse in theatre.
Yeah.
For maybe maximum 40 to 45 days. So within 45 days, all the actors, they would be rendering all the lines of the text.
Yeah.
And they spend only 2 hours or 2.5 hours a day, and hardly we take 1 hour, 1.5 hours exactly for that matter. So in 1.5 hours, for almost 45 hours we get, or 50 hours, all 20 students, they can recite the text. They can they tell you what the relationship, who is who, what happens in the first scene. So all the details of the text is known to those students because of the way they practice it there.
Yeah.
And they try to understand Macbeth not as a, not by few lines. They try to understand, given a position, what could be his height, color, weight, and then what kind of costume that she should be wearing. So all these things that should get into their mind. So this is the advantage of preparing an actor in a theatre sector. Whereas in a classroom, with all said and done, spending so much of time, still, majority of the students find it difficult. Till the examination, they find it, sir, I really don't know what's it like. Could you give me some important lines from the text?
Yeah.
So nothing could be a better joke than this for a teacher. So that difference one need to understand, and one need to bring it into practice. And that's one of the reasons why I've played for the past 10 years, I think this NCRT in high school education, they've thought of new idea, that is theatre in education. They've come out with a new proposition called theatre in education, where the tools of theatre could be employed in teaching mathematics or chemistry or anything. So we construct situations, we make them to understand, relate themselves to the situation. It could be a scene in chemistry or in physics, how to teach quantum mechanics. So you can have a theatre as an example.
Yeah.
So that's really working out in some of these schools like Kendriya Vidyalaya and over there, they're practicing it.
Yeah, okay.
But it's not happening in every school because
it will
lack of motivation and then space and economy, everything comes in the way.
Okay, that brings me to my second question, which you already somehow brought it up. But as you said, the expression is the important part being a teacher. Did that ability to express, or the knack or the art of expressing, or the knack of expression bring you to theatre, or was something else that brought you to theatre?
Yeah. No, I was not exposed to theatre during my schooling days or college days, etc. Only at a later stage, only when I was doing my post-graduation, I was exposed, and I was seeing plays, but not that much. Now, my coming to theatre is also a kind of it's a different tale. I did not take interest in theatre because that I should be an actor or something like that. At the time, I was somehow, maybe because of my early days, etc., I was deeply interested in the social dynamics. So I wanted to talk to my people, members of the society, especially when we go to meet people who live in rural areas. So how could we talk to them? Because they are not well versed in the language that I am exposed to. And they really don't understand. And even if I write a pamphlet, they don't understand my pamphlet because they don't know how to read that pamphlet. So the only thing that we could talk to them was only through performing arts. So that led me to take interest in theatre, because through theatre I could talk to them, I could share my my understanding of society. So that was how I joined theatre. It was one of the theatre organization called Samsthana, where we deeply we were interested in the social dynamics and all kinds of falsities that we come across in societies, and certain values that we have to inscribe to them, like social equity, creating a casteless society, and then all kinds of exploitations. One should fight against all these social evils. So these things we could tell them only through constructing stories and then performing it on the streets or in small halls, etc. And that was how I took interest in theatre. And the early part of the days, I was just doing that. Then gradually, whatever you do, in creative art, there is an element of aesthetics, which you cannot just avoid. So you need to create an aesthetic quality to the registration. So then we started, creating how best one can do. Yes, content is known to us that we are against this caste exploitation. We are against untouchability. But how do we put it across? You need a wonderful story for that. You need a wonderful analysis of that story. You need good actors to perform. You need music. You need sets, everything. So these are the aesthetics or the embellishments of theatre, what we call. We need to learn that too. And only when you have that in your system, then people would certainly come and watch us. Otherwise, if it's a dry play of arguments, etc., people won't take interest in it. So like the way we try to create enthusiasm in a classroom to understand, to make students to understand, the subject, you need to create same sort of thing.
Yeah.
And for which this is not something unknown to us, or this is not something that is alien to us, or this is not something that is constructed. This is there very much in our life, in all our folk life.
Yeah.
Because almost all folk stories start with the first line, once upon a time there lived.
Yeah.
So this creating or arresting people with that first phrase, there lived a king with 3 daughters.
Yeah.
So that understanding of narrating a story is there in our societal activities.
Yeah.
So we had to recreate that kind of situation and then convert it into your own method of analysis and put it across the way you want it to be and register the value that you really believe in it. So that way, we took the traditional forms of theatre, it could be Bayalata or Yakshigana or street, and we converted it, Moodalpaya, and that we converted into our scientific understanding of society, like what it is. So that way it helped me a lot, and in fact we created a wonderful a way of presenting things. It could be a dowry death, a girl committing or girl being burned to death by their in-laws, or some an untouchable being harassed by a caste Hindu. So all these stories we did it, and when we did this performance, and really people took interest in it, and that was the time, of course, in 70s and 80s, the society was also engineering towards that kind of activities. There were a lot of organizations which were trying to bring in a semblance of similarities, etc. So it helped us working in that way. So what I would say here is, theatre for that matter is not, though of course it's a creative media, it's still, my interest in theatre started with kind of a critical analysis.
Yeah.
So with the help of analyzing things, dissecting the text, restructuring it, redoing it, and then giving a shape to it. So the more my job was more or less like a critic. I was to enter into a text.
Okay.
So what it really means. Fair is foul, foul is fair. A line in the Macbeth. So what does it signify? Why fair has to be foul and foul has to be fair? So with this understanding of the line, you take entry into Shakespearean text and try to reverberate your thoughts through that lines. So that way it helps. And all this when we do, we keep the person who is watching us, the audience, the spectators. So whatever we drive, it must, as you said some time earlier, the thoughts were so esoteric that it just bounced upon our head. So if my content is so esoteric or unacceptable to the larger section, then there is no point in doing an exercise of that sort.
True.
So the whole idea of doing theatre is to reach out to people and to make them understand what is really going on. So you need to bring down, you need to operate in a certain wavelength where the frequency matches.
So again, I'll come to the earlier thing you said, as the expression is the most important. To express, I need to have something inside me that I can express. Otherwise, there is nothing I can express.
Exactly.
For that, the impressions I get are the most important. That's the only thing I can express. Like when you said, fair is foul, foul is fair, it's a very general statement in the play. Many have read it, just passed it, turned the page and moved on. But something made you stay there and analyze it, and what is that impression you get from that? And Only when you get that impression, the expression is possible, and that expression will reach the audience.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a very interesting question. I find it difficult to frame my answer
Or I can
for two reasons. Like, for example, I would give you, I was just discussing this on when we were coming.
Mm-hmm.
I read a poem. I must have read this poem for almost 25 years. I must have read, for example, Adiga's Sri Ramandaviya Divsa poem, or Bhumi Gita.
Mm-hmm.
For example, in Bhumi Gita, there's a line, Hedavana Hegala Mele Kurida Kotiddane, Dari Saguvadento Kayabeko. The most paradoxical expression. A blind sitting on the lame person. Yeah. Let's see how the traverse.
Yeah.
This line I must have read for years together, but still at any given time it might not have registered the way I want it to be registered. At one time, someday, some moment when I reread it again, something flashes upon my mind. Yeah, this is the one that I was really looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And then I start reconstructing it. From that point of view, I'll try to deconstruct the whole poem.
Yeah.
And then try to, now I think now I got the keys. It's something like you need keys to operate.
Opening things.
Like musical instrument, keys have to be operated.
Yes.
And if it is opened in the right sense, you get the right notes.
Yeah.
If the keys are not opened properly, you don't get the right notes at the right time. So this kind of understanding of the text, it happens not only in theater, it can happen in our life. Just like that, a garden like this, you'll be watching everything, and then one day you watch a particular tree and the shape of the tree, something strikes. You've been watching it for the past 20 years.
Yeah.
But nothing has struck you.
Yes.
But on one particular day, this is what we call, if I use the word spiritual, it's something like Jnanodaya.
Yeah.
Realization dawned upon me, I say.
Yes.
But I would say it's too strong word for me to use such words. I wouldn't say that.
It hit me.
So yeah, it just occurred to me.
Yeah.
On that day, it just occurred to me. I've been watching this Picasso's painting. It's there right in front of my eyes. But nothing has struck me. And one fine day when I look at that Picasso's painting, something strikes me.
Yes.
And then something realizes. And we have wonderful stories to acknowledge this experience. For example, that guy must have seen a bird killing another bird, or some hunter coming and killing him. He must have seen it throughout his life.
Yes.
But on particular day, when a hunter kills a bird and the other bird expresses its moan,
the pain.
Then Krauncha vadadudvega dalalu Bhattale Ramayana.
Yes.
Reshmitavalu. So that line occurs to Valmiki or that particular time.
Yeah.
He himself was a hunter all through his life. Never struck me, and he never ever claimed that he is a poet, and he never dreamt of writing an epic poem like. Assuming the fact that it is a story, fine. It could be a fictional imagination, fine. But still, here is an incident which cracks our mind in such a way, yes, this is possible.
Yeah.
At some time, Edison has to get his bulb only after 999 experiments failed.
Yeah.
So on one particular day, he got it. He got the system right. Newton got his system right on one particular day when he found apple falling down from the tree. So these are the examples which tell us that at one point something really happened. So this is one way of looking at it.
Yeah.
How do I get my expression? Maybe like this it happens. So once you operate the keys properly and know how to get into the text, then you start working on it. So and once you start working on it, then automatically all your reading materials, your understanding of the text, your understanding of this. Because I would say any text for that matter is a reflection of the society.
Yes.
So we cannot create text in vacuum.
Yeah.
Whatever it is,
True.
whether it is Ramayana, Mahabharata, or a play of Shakespeare, or anything for that matter, it has to be created in a context.
Yes.
So text can be created only in context. And we need to understand the context when we try to understand the text. So the context has two stages. One is pretext, another is post-text.
Yes.
So the pretext is, what is pretext? So what might have happened earlier, or what reasons made this to happen,
Yeah.
and what happened early. What is the consequence of it? So the cause and effect theory comes in the book. So ultimately, what does it say? So these things we try to do. So when we are deconstructing, we are not deconstructing the text, at the time of Valmiki or Shakespeare.
Yes.
We are doing it in 21st century, living in Mysore, talking to my people, understanding my society here.
Yeah.
Only through this, I can go back to that.
Yeah.
So the shift in time and space is very important for us. An action that might have taken place long back, which might have been written by another person after a couple of hundreds of years, which we are reading it today, in a place which is totally unknown to those characters.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we are trying to highlight. So this is what I call as continuum in communication. So there is a communication from Valmiki through Ramayana to me, and through me to my audience.
Yeah.
So where does it begin and where does it end? It's really a wonderful question.
You said something about pretext and post-text. If it is for you, when it hit you, the fair is foul, foul is fair, or even for Valmiki, the moment he shot the arrow to that pair of birds, that pretext, for me it is like you have done a lot of preparation to that moment, because it doesn't hit anybody and everybody like that. Valmiki might have been one of the best hunters, or whatever he does, he might be doing it at an optimum level. So Valmiki must be a best hunter of his time, because something to flow through him of that quality, of an epic poetry, it will not happen to anybody who is not worthy of it, or who can contain that. So what is that which makes Valmiki as a hunter to come to that level, or Mr. Ramesh to realize that moment? What's that preparation you go through? How do you keep yourself like open enough to receive the impressions?
This is something, as I've been telling you, very difficult to
answer that.
Explain. The simple reason, I can only say, if you ask me why it happened, it's difficult to answer.
Yeah.
Or how it happened, difficult to answer. But after this, I started doing the rest of the things.
Yes.
So that way I can explain myself, because it's something very difficult. I really don't have any answer. For example, recently I did a play. It was Shivram Karan's novel, Better Jiva, quite recently, just a year before we did this play. And interestingly, I was planning to do that text for the past 15 years. Every time, but it was there in my mind. So almost for some kind of focusing, what you may call it as, we need to ruminate, and we need to meditate on that.
Yes.
You keep on concentrating
nourishing
yourself
that gestation. Yeah.
So it takes time. At some point, it dawns upon your mind, yes, here is the way out for this. And once that way out comes, it's easy.
Yeah.
If you put it in a larger context, what it is, this is what we call in our literary discussions, we call it the luggage of tradition that we have in us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all there. So unlike others, I need not have to create from the beginning.
Yes.
Valmiki, Vyasa and others, they're all in my blood.
Yes.
And they have come to me through my tradition.
Yes.
So only thing is, I need my individual talent to put it in a context. So that's what we call tradition and individual talent.
Yes, yes, yes.
So that backlog is always there with us, which helps me. For an European, his backlog is there all the time.
Yes, yes.
For an Indian, we have this, we live, one of the greatest quality of an Indian is, he lives in many ages in one time.
True.
I live in the age of epics, I live in the age of Renaissance, I live in the age of modern,
yes.
together simultaneously in one go.
Yes.
So this is the advantage of, so our understanding of history or understanding of our myth is not linear in progression. Mm-hmm. It's all there.
Yeah.
It has come to you in a package.
Yes.
So, so it may not be a surprise for me if an ISRO scientist launches rocket to moon, and if he offers Mangalarti to it before, it's not a surprising factor for me.
Yes.
Because both exist in his mind or in our mind simultaneously without crisscrossing each other.
Yes.
So and that's the advantage of being an Indian. I would, because in other societies, they have a past, and then they move from that past to another age, and then another age, like that. For example, Christianity or whatever it is. It all moves. It has got a linear expansion of thought. 300 BC, 100 AD, 500 AD. Now, it is not the case for us.
Yeah.
6th century BC, Buddha is next to me here.
Yes. Yes.
And then 20th century Guru is also here.
Yes.
And they can survive together without crisscrossing their thoughts and without creating any confusion.
Yes.
But only some ridiculous elements may create problems, which I'm not interested in, and I don't think it's part of our discussion now.
Yes. Yeah.
So that we have to take advantage of that. And the best thing is, I need not have to go in search of a philosopher, because my villager who lives next to my farm is a wonderful philosopher. Yeah. Because he believes in that. His one expression tells me everything.
He lives it.
Hogle bide avn madid papa avnagate. What a great word it is.
Yes.
He doesn't believe in retaliating or taking revenge or anything like that. He believes in, he has committed sin and it will take care of him.
Yes.
I need not have to worry. No better philosophy is required for me to understand non-violence.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't require either Buddha or Mahavira to understand this concept, because he is born in that society. He believes in that, and he makes no claim of that, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
Unlike others, the city-bred people, we claim lot than what we actually really do not belong to.
Yeah.
So that simplicity. There's a wonderful story which Anandmurthy was telling me. He goes to a village, and there's a wonderful sculpture in a small cave. There was some god sculpture was there. So this Anandmurthy takes interest in it and he says, "Shall I have this?" The villager says, "Okay, you can take this." "What do? "I'll have another one." One idol is just a stone carving. You remove it, you can create another idol, establish, consecrate it, then offer prayer.
Yes, I will continue.
So this Catholicity of the mind of a villager We don't have it.
Yeah.
If that idol is lost, we say the world has come to an end.
Oh, yeah.
And we fight and then kill thousands of people just to hold on to that idol. For a villager, idol is just a stone carving. He can always replace it. The next day he carves another one and puts a flower on it, and that becomes his
Continue with
God.
the same. Yeah.
So this Catholicity of mind is there in amongst our villagers. That's what we call native wisdom.
Yes.
So I go back to my words again. There's nothing like, the information flows from the known to the unknown. Certainly not.
Yes.
The information is always shared, guarded, reciprocated, nurtured.
Yes.
That's perhaps the best thing that we all need to do.
Yeah.
As long as we have this arrogance of saying, look, I have this which you don't have, and I have the privilege of passing on to you, I think we make a mistake. And none of our great philosophers, scientists, or saints and others, they did not come with the idea of passing on the information, which I think is a typical stereotyped version of a Western thinking process, like pass on the information. So there the difference arises.
Wow, so this is such a wonderful, educating.
I don't know.
This is really, on many levels, it feels, it gives me a kind of a satisfaction talking to you. Feels like I am really listening to somebody which I wanted. It's really beautiful, and I'm so deeply grateful in this process.
I'm honored, I can say.
Thank you for giving this opportunity for us. And I hope this will also help in many people in their journey of life. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.